Okay. Right before we start this episode, I'd like to thank our new Patreon members from the month of September. You guys, my Patreon support means the world to me. Just helps me keep the podcast going. So let me thank our new convert levels. And just a reminder, guys, if you are a convert, you get to introduce the podcast. So message me if you need help doing that. But first, let me thank the Nature vs. Narcissism podcast for becoming a convert, as well as Eleanor L. for becoming a convert. Thank you, guys. And now on to the episode.
Welcome back to the Cult of Domesticity. I'm joined by another Cincinnati podcaster, but we are not together.
No, we are not.
Introduce yourself and your podcast.
Yes, I am Jason with the History of Bad Ideas, a pop culture podcast that we record every Tuesday night, and we don't really know what editing is, so we go up Tuesday night as well. So it's a roundtable podcast about pretty much anything we want to talk about that week.
Yeah, and if you have suggestions, you guys are always looking for them on Twitter, because that's how we hooked up. We were talking on Twitter, and you're just like, I got a topic for you. And I was like, let's go.
Yes. So we are open to anything. If somebody ever wants to send us questions, we have a listener feedback section. And we range in anywhere from three people on the show to, I think, 5, I think is our route on a good day. But now we're recording on Skype with everything going on. So we have people jump in and out, and then we have guests throughout the whole time as well.
I am always impressed by the range of topics you guys cover. Because, like, I'll look at it, I'm like, how did you guys get from point A to point B? And then you listen, you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
So in the beginning, we're at 300 and something episodes, and in the very beginning, we were trying to focus like on a couple topics, and people didn't like it. They liked it when we would go off on tangents and like on different topics. And so ever since then, we usually spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes on each topic, if that, depending on how we like it, and then we just keep going on. So. And then sometimes we just rant about one thing the whole time, but that's rare.
Just full of rage about one topic. Like, why isn't Baby Yoda having his own show? So you're going to start.
Yes.
And you have a missing persons case for us.
Yes. So I talk about this on my podcast all the time, and I'm in the minority, so I appreciate you letting me come on your show to talk about this. Because they all think I'm super weird on this. So I am obsessed with missing persons. Obsessed. I know that I will never solve it. I get that. I don't have the ego that I'm going to solve these. I know that. But I have to figure out what happened to my own self. Like, I go on Reddit, and I don't even know how Reddit works half the time, but I know I'm on it. I know. And I go on these things. I look up the police reports, go down these holes that just for hours on end, and I stop. Because
do you do the ones where there's people missing in, like, the national parks, like there's so many people that go missing in there?
Yeah, so my family, I have 3 kids, and my wife and I love hiking. We do that a lot, almost every other weekend. And I grew up with, ever since I was about 18 and on, I love going to national parks and hiking, as much as I can. And let me tell you, every single time I'm there, I'm like, we're going to find a body. Like, every single time, because they go missing. And now, that's another rabbit. See, you got me going down that rabbit hole. So, my thought on that is, I think a lot of people that are suicidal just go off, and that's it. And they go to the parks, it's peaceful, have a good day. And they're like, well, we can never find them. Well, it's a national park. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of acres in some of these parks? So, you're not going to find them, especially with things. But that's another story. But yes, the national parks I got into, and I had to pull away because I was like, I feel like it's just suicide. Or they just get lost off a trail. Stay on the trail.
I've won a park, yeah. Stay on the trail, because you never know, like, how secure the ground is that you're walking on. Or the park I worked at, we had a really bad problem with ground hornets, and so people kept getting stung by them. So my boss made a sign to put in the office, like, so many days since, like, ground hornet attack.
Do they hurt?
I never got stung by one. I guess they did. Like, you'd be walking up this trail, so you'd disturb them so they would kind of swarm, so you wouldn't get stung, like, once. You get stung a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So he kept having to call, like, EMS, and I would just hear it, like, over the radio, and I'm like, well, glad I'm not that kind of ranger. Good day. I'm gonna go talk about some foliage and stuff, like Lewis and Clark.
Look at this walking tree over here. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, so I go down these rabbit holes and I can't stop. I've been doing this for so long. And again, I have no notion that I'm going to solve these. I know that. But it bothers me that I can't have closure on someone. Or it just boggles my mind, like, people are just go missing. It's like, there's got to be an answer, like, obviously. Like, and usually it's the simplest. but you would think. But then you start going down a rabbit hole, and you're like, well, maybe this did happen. Maybe it was aliens. Maybe that's right.
Maybe it was a Wendigo.
Oh,
yes.
Maybe it was Maybe it was a dingo. Maybe it was a dingo after all. So, today is Jennifer Kesse. She's 24 years old, 2003 graduate of the University of Central Florida with a degree in finance. She was a member of a sorority, Alpha Delta Pi.
AD Pi, yeah.
So, by all accounts, she worked for a financial company. She was doing a great job. She was on her way up. She's the daughter of Drew and Joyce Kesse and sister to Logan. That's going to be important because later on, basically, they're the ones running the investigation. She was in a long-distance relationship with her boyfriend, Rob, and they just returned from a trip to the Caribbean. Best part about Rob is he's British, too. So when you listen to his interviews, he has a nice little British accent. While on vacation, her brother Logan was staying at her condo. It was a condo complex. It was apartments, and they were rehabbing them over to a condo complex. So there was a lot of construction work. So she had her brother stay there, and he had a couple of his friends over too. His friend Travis forgot his cell phone at the condo after a weekend of partying. According to when she got back from the trip, it was on Sunday night. She talked to Logan, and then she talked to Travis and was going to mail it back his cell phone. And I think there were 2.5 hours with brother, about 2.5 hours.
That's really considerate, though, to be like, and at that point, you could still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it might cost you an arm and the leg to do because they were the bigger phones, but
so this was 2006. Yeah, 2006. So that's 14 years ago. Yeah, that's going to cost you a pretty penny back then because you got to bubble wrap it.
Oh yeah, no, those phones were indestructible.
It was the flip. Well, it could be the flip phone too. So she was close with all of her fans too. Every interview I've watched with them, they were close to each other. According to her parents and her best friend Lauren McCarthy. Basically, when she got back on that Sunday, she was always still a little worried about the safety of her condo, just because she was one of only 2 people in her, I guess it would be her condo section, that was living. So it was a big complex, I will say that. And so across the hall from her, there was actually construction workers living. Later find out there was 10 construction workers living in one apartment complex / condo complex.
Cozy.
Yes. The hallway was not well lit. Everything I saw online with the photos, it was not a well lit one. It was an apartment complex going to a condo. I'm guessing that's why. Just wasn't well done. So that's the backstory on that section of where she was.
If I were her, I would have been terrified too. Because, I mean, anytime you live alone as a woman, you're always just like, okay, how well lit is it? Where's the parking? Like, what are my exits? As for me, everyone knows I live between 2 police stations. I can run out my front or back door and get there.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly how to do it. That's the only reason.
And according to her parents, she was well prepared for it. She got into the habit of carrying pepper spray with her. She kept her in between her fingers, which is always a good thing. Not only for people, but for dogs, especially if you're a dog. So you can just hit them with the key in the snout. Little fun fact.
Also, if you jangle your keys, if there's like skunks or animals, it warns them ahead of time so they run away so you don't get sprayed by skunks.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's fun. See, look at that. We're educational on animals today. Skunks.
Safety.
Skunks, dogs, and ents. It's awesome. Like I said, she would also phone frequently. She would always answer the phone when her mom or dad called, and vice versa. She would, her friend Lauren said that even going to the parking lot at Target or grocery store, she would always call at nighttime, just so she was on the phone when she was going to and from the car. So everything shows that she was in a loving relationship with Rob. No idea at the time that she would run away from that. She had a good job in a finance company. She was working her way up on it. So there was no thoughts that she was unhappy. The Mosaic Apartments is what her condo in Orlando, Florida.
That does seem like a Florida named apartment complex.
I think later on I have the other apartment complex with her car, and it's it's like another, that's Florida. Yeah, that's great.
It'd be like up here where it'd be like the Grove, or like tree themed or like field themed, and you're just like
the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hi.
She gets back on Sunday night. She goes to work on Monday, and she gets back at 6 p.m. Monday night. So the apartments were being remodeled. Let's see here. She spoke to some of her friends that night, including Rob, her boyfriend, the British boy, and until 10 p.m. that night. That's the night of January 23rd, 2006. And then she did in a conversation with Rob on 48 Hours, he did say that they did get into kind of an argument that night over the phone. He's also, I believe, 3 hours away, so it's kind of a long distance relationship. He's 2 or 3.
Oh.
So with all that being said, he said it wasn't a huge argument. She got tired of driving back and forth each weekend. Same with him. So that was part of the part of it. But he said they didn't break up. There wasn't, oh, I hate you. Or it's just basically they were fighting over a long distance.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Everybody I know who's in a long distance relationship, they're like, oh, I get so tired. I have to drive so far to get to there, like back and forth. It's so much time. Somebody always has to leave work early, so you're losing money and all of it. Yeah, I completely get it.
The phone power's down. It's not off completely, but she's done with her conversations by 10 p.m. The next morning, on January 24th, the police believe she showered or somebody at her complex showered. There was clothes out on the bed, multiple clothes out on the bed. Her mom has said that's pretty common for her to be out, the clothes to be out, because she would go decide which clothes to pick for the day. She would put a couple out, and she would also have them out for the rest of the week.
She is prepared.
She is.
I wear a uniform to work, and I'm still just like, this shirt.
I'm in work from home, and I have a hoodie and, shorts on every day. It's wonderful. But before that, I was like, oh, God, I got to find what to wear tomorrow. Into the office. No. That morning at 8 a.m., she usually always called between 7:30 and 8 a.m. She would call her British guy, Rob, to talk on the way into work. I love the Brits.
I can tell.
Moving on. She left for work on that Tuesday at around 8 a.m. Never got her phone. Never got a call. She never made a call to her boyfriend. Her boyfriend started getting worried. He would call a couple times on interviews here, and basically around 11 o'clock, he thought it kept going to voicemail. He thought that was so. Her coworkers were kind of worried about it as well. They stated that she's never late. She never did. So they notified her family, which nice coworker. I like that.
Those are the people you want. As someone who's lived far away from family, those are the coworkers you want in case you go missing.
Yes. Her parents drove straight to the apartment then, a couple hours away. Her brother actually beat them there by 15 minutes. So go Logan. He arrived at 3 p.m. The parents arrived at 3:50. Nothing appeared out of place in the condo complex, in her condo. Her purse, cell phone, and her black 4-door 2004 Chevy Malibu were all missing, though. So, interesting part, comes to find out there was a witness later on that came to state that on the morning of her going missing, they saw her car swerving in and out of the parking lot going down the road outside.
So maybe she was fighting whoever was in the car with her?
The one thought is fighting, or if she was abducted by somebody, whatever he did to her, put her in the trunk, whatever, or she could be in the back. He could be driving out and going, kind of all over the place because he's worried. He's trying to get out of there in a hurry.
Yeah.
It's 7:30 to 8 o'clock on a, morning in Florida. It's light out. If she's abducted at that point at her car, that's a pretty ballsy abduction, especially with construction workers all around.
That's true, but if they're all in the building, if they're in the apartment,
True.
They wouldn't see anything. And they have tools going on, so
That's
it could be
call.
really loud.
That is a good call. I didn't think of that. Because most of them, they're not going to be outside doing the landscaping at that time if they're worried about the apartment.
Yeah.
The issue was that by the time the police got there, they didn't take it seriously. Her parents were begging for them to do something. They thought that she had an argument with her boyfriend and, a crazy lady, crazy woman, haha, she left. And it's like, no, probably not going to leave your job even if you had an argument. Especially, typical cops in this case were like, nope, we're not doing it. So the Orlando police did not make me happy when I was looking. Usually you can get really good detectives. I felt like there was not much effort in the beginning, and her parents felt the same.
Especially because they said she has a history of calling, even if she was mad at him, she always answered her parents. So if she's not answering her parents' calls and she doesn't show up to work, that's really suspicious because most people aren't going to, not show up to their job. And in finance, you could get, fired for that.
Yeah.
Well, most places you get fired for that.
Most places. But especially, she works for a pretty reputable company. I think the company, they said it was around 3,000 employees at that time. I don't think her office was that big. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a satellite office. Still had a lot of people, but not, 3,000 total.
And they would notice, really, too. If it's a smaller office, you really notice if someone doesn't show up or they're acting different and stuff like that. So they'd be, extra suspicious.
Correct. The issue was, by the time the police, they said they would look into it. They looked around. According to Logan, her brother, They never really interviewed any construction.
Sorry, I can't roll my eyes hard enough at that.
Yes. So they were supposed to, the one person they talked to was the foreman on the job, and they were supposed to get a list of all the employees that were working there. Unfortunately, some of them were undocumented, and basically the foreman never got back to or gave them a shit. So don't worry about them. We're fine.
It's definitely not fine. So not fine.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You don't need that. So the unfortunate thing is the police could not really take fingerprints inside the condo complex because by that time, you had about 10 to 15 people that entered and exited the building. At that point, you're going to have fingerprints. So I don't blame the parents for going in and the brother going in looking because, they're worried. But by that time, had people with the police coming in and out. They weren't really documenting who was coming. Obviously, they were touching. So right off the bat that afternoon, this was at 3 o'clock. That afternoon, her parents and her brother started flooding the area with missing poster. The next day, a couple days later, nothing really happened. They didn't find anything. They couldn't find her car. They didn't see any struggle in the apartment. Fast forward 2 days later on Thursday, January, there was a phone call from the Huntington on the Green apartment complex.
That does seem like it seems like an apartment complex.
Well, it's on the Green, and the police have said this is a notoriously bad area. And it's like, oh.
Aren't all bad apartments like something on the Green?
Yes.
There's always a color involved, I feel like.
Or a villa. There's always a villa. I always feel like there's something on the villas and the villas of the Green or something.
They try to make it sound real fancy, and you go up and you're like, you guys have put $10 into this, and it's all duct tape.
You don't have a working door. Thank you, landlord.
It's everything's labeled luxury, and you walk in, and it's one washing machine and maybe a dryer.
Yes. With gum stuck in the coin slot of the dryer.
And no appliances. You have to bring your own.
Yes.
And the builder's like, you guys don't even have a microwave?
We have a hot plate. It's over there. There's a hot plate.
It's communal for 6 apartments, though. Just so you know, make sure to unplug it, though, so it doesn't burn down.
And somebody may knock on your door at midnight looking to make some Jiffy Pop on it. So just to let you know. Just don't worry about it.
Oh my god, that makes me so anxious just thinking about that. Oh.
So this was a little bit over about a mile away from her condo. Her car was found in the parking lot. Residents at the complex say the car has been parked there for several days. The area is described as a drug and high crime area. According to good news is there was video surveillance. Bad news was it was 2006, and they basically had a Betamax tape back then. So.
Do you want 12 pixels? That is what you got.
Well, this makes it even worse because it took video every 2 to 3 seconds. So,
oh god, it's so bad.
This is when it gets frustrating. So on the tape, you see the car come into the parking lot and actually straighten out into the parking lot.
So they parked well.
They did park well.
When you had a body in the trunk or something like that. They parked well.
Cool. I may be an abductor, but damn it, I'm not going to fail my maneuverability test. That's it. Damn it. I don't want that on my record. Please make sure I can parallel park. I want to make sure I'm okay with that.
I'm within the lines. I'm straight. I'm good. Okay.
Everybody looking? He knew he was on camera.
Now turn away so I can get everything suspicious out of the car.
Well, that's where it comes in. So, this person of interest pulls into a visitor's parking space, waited 32 seconds, and then exited the car. What they think the police said in the latest report, 48 hours, this past week, was that they think he or she wiped down the whole car because they only had a partial print. So
32 seconds to do that? Damn! This is not their first rodeo.
No. So in my past, I used to do investigations. Not they were criminal, but not a cop. But it was.
I thought you were going to say paranormal, and I was like, ghosts know how to wipe down fingerprints?
Yes, they do. Bigfoot does. Bigfoot. So in my job, I used to do this many moons ago, and it was with vehicles, stolen vehicles. So the issue with vehicles is that you really can't get good prints off them and the reason for that is because there's not really a solid surface. You can get them, it's just more difficult to do because a lot of them, because your fingers are bent or you're touching stuff, a lot of people are touching the car. If you go in there, if you have passengers, they're touching everything. So it's just difficult to get a full print on a car.
Also, you have to think all the surfaces aren't really smooth anymore either.
No, and I think that was part of it. Now, you can get the prints like on the windows and that, especially the exterior a little bit better, but a lot of it, you're just not going to get a lot of good. So they got like half a print, doesn't do any. Person gets out of the car and goes and walks away. So the interesting part is that you can never see the face, okay? The issue is, though, and I've never seen this, I've never he or she actually get out of the car. Like, they've never that, or if they did, you can't find it. You can't find it anymore. And I don't think they're hiding it. I think they've been, maybe in that 2 to 3 seconds they got out and they kept their head down, and but you never really see it. It could also be the camera angle, too, on.
Do you think the person knows where the camera is?
Yeah, I think so. I think if they worked in that area, I think they know. If it was a construction worker, my thought is they probably worked in other apartment complexes around that area, and they kind of they knew that was a 2 to 3 seconds. They knew where to look, is what my thought is. Because what happens is this person of interest goes around and is walking to fence, and every 2 to 3 seconds that the camera gets it is the person's face is blurred by a fence railing every single time. So you only get the back leg, you get the back of their head a little bit, like the part of it black and white, so it's grainy. So it looks like they have a white shirt and khaki pants and black shoes. The question, how tall is this person? Police originally said between 5'3" and 5'5" is what they. My thought is, couldn't you do like some type of measurement off the fence?
Comparison, yeah.
They did say that they had several detectives go by the fence. They tried to figure out to get an idea, and that's how they came up to 5'3". They said he either was wearing a beret, so he was French. He had a bun, a ponytail, or a hard hat. The pants appear baggy and a polo type shirt. To me, it kind of looked like a painter's uniform.
Yeah, that seems more painters than strict construction.
Mm-hmm.
Because those guys tend to wear t-shirts just because it's better. But yeah, painters tend to actually wear polos, which doesn't make sense to me either because you're going to get paint. Well, no. I guess those guys don't get paint on them. They're
better.
Good.
They're better than most. And most construction guys in general wear jeans, is what I feel like. You have more pockets, you have more things. Unless back in the day, the cargo pants, you have it. But it did seem very painted, like a painter type idea. Or a painter. So mud is noted on the threads on the tires, on the treads. And then, so basically, we found this. They found the surveillance camera. That's not really helping too much because you can't see. And it literally ticks me off every single time. Because half a second more, you could have at least had a face.
Or at least part of a face.
Yeah. And because you don't even know if it's a male or female at this point.
That's true. If they said it's a bun, like man buns weren't really in.
Mm-mm.
So there weren't a lot of people. I could see guys having like a ponytail, like if you're working and you got to just put your hair back. But yeah, it could have been a woman. Like think about it, wearing khaki, a polo. Could have been like a supervisor checking in on different sites.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been like construction management.
It could have been. My thought, when I look at it, looks like the bottom part of the head is shaved, like maybe a 2 or like go the flippers, and then the top part is kind of a bowl cut. Not completely a bowl cut, because they never go out of style. But
oh, that's such a bad hairstyle, just thinking about it.
So that was my thought, is that's the type of style. Every time I look at it, I don't see a hat. I don't see anything like that. I guess it could be, who knows, but it looks like a bowl cut, is my thought.
What if it's like a beanie? So it looks like a bowl cut.
Could be that. I don't see it as a beret, but it could be possibly. It just, and then maybe their whole head is shaved and they just have the top. Yeah, it could be.
Because depending on the beanie, it could look like that. Like it could give a bowl cut appearance, especially with low quality.
And to be honest, they probably should be arrested just for having a bowl cut. I mean, if
they do, yeah.
Let's just take that person off. Nah, come on.
just someone grab him and shave their head.
Come here. So the bloodhounds, they got the bloodhounds involved, and I love when they get bloodhounds involved. And they tracked her scent, Jennifer's scent, from her vehicle back to her residence. Tracked it to the back of the building stairs on the lake side, because there's a lake behind the condo. There's no signs that a struggle had taken place in or around the car. A DVD player, a valuable DVD player is what the police said back in 2006. Welcome to 2006.
You could probably, had a good remote with digital.
Ooh.
Maybe you could put 2 DVDs in there.
Does it have Blu-ray in 06? I'm trying to think. I don't think it does.
No, I think it was 2010. I was in high school when Blu-ray started coming out.
Didn't know. It was a laser disc. That's what it was. Oh.
It was a VHS tape.
Oh, VHS. So the DVD player was in the car, had not been stolen. That leads me to believe that she was not in that car at all during the whole day. They did have Rob, her boyfriend, come to the site, and they opened the trunk in front of him.
What if there was a body in there?
According to the 48 Hours police interview, the detective did say that they wanted to see his reaction. And they said he basically was like, oh shit, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to because see. So they opened the trunk in front of him. Nothing was in there. Or nothing. There's no body.
She wasn't in there.
Correct.
Could you imagine if she was, though? Like, how much therapy that guy's got to get?
Yeah.
Like, your girlfriend goes missing, and the cops are like, we're all gonna see for together. And they're, like, watching you, and they open it, and the body's in there, and you're just like, oh.
You would think that Rob's first comment would be like, why would you do that? I hate you. What the hell's wrong with you? After breaking down and crying for 2 hours, probably. I mean...
Yes, that seems like an adequate response.
So, the police originally thought, one of the leading theories was that she was kidnapped the night she was abducted. Because they said they thought her cell phone was turned off. They thought it was pinging a different location. It was 2006, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Comes to find out, none of that was. So there was tons of misinformation out there at that time where her cell phone. The problem is that information on her cell phone isn't correct until months or years. So they're going on all these. On Thursday, February 2nd, the 9 days, I think, they conducted a grid search. Throughout this whole time, the parent and the family and friends were basically conducting their own searches because they weren't getting else from the...
I'm sorry, the police waited 9 days.
Yes, February 2nd, 2006. They conducted their official grids. February 4th, which was 9 days again, police, after this came out, Orlando police released 2 photos of the person of interest walking the gate. So that was 9 days, I think, after they got the surveillance.
It's a little over a week.
Mm-hmm.
So much stuff has happened in your life. Are you going to remember, like, that kind of stuff?
And with construction workers, they move around to jobs a lot. So I get what the police were doing because they probably thought they could get this tape, they could get the person, be done. But I think it's too much time. I think you left too much time out for it. On Saturday, February 11th, over 500 people, according to the local news app, conducted another search for her. They never found her. And finally, on Valentine's Day, the FBI's called in. Hey, maybe we should get them in here. That might be a good idea.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Your FBI agent. Have a good day.
Give your FBI agent a flower.
So, let's see. So, some of the police originally on this, the detectives were Sergeant Robert Brennan and Detective Joel Wright. And I don't want to come across as callous that they didn't care. I'm not stating that one bit. It just seemed like originally, and I'm not saying them, but overall, the parents did not feel like the police were. I don't think they really thought it was a serious deal until they found the tape, the surveillance tape in her car. I think that's when they were like, maybe this is something.
So the initial, like, cops on the scene definitely probably like, oh, she's 24. Like, you're an adult. You can disappear if you're an adult, but this, correct, like, yeah.
There was no warning signs in her life that she wanted to. She had a good job. She had a steady boyfriend. You know, she was close with her family. It wasn't like any of the warning signs were out there like, hey, these are red flags. You know, she's a transient. She's got, you know, moving around. Anything.
There's no stressors, you know.
Correct. There's no history of drugs, alcohol, any arrest, you know, records, nothing. That's about it. That's what happened. That's the abduction. That's pretty much what the police had to go on, and there wasn't much else. So you look at there are suspects. So that's where we're getting into is there's a whole lot of stuff. And I'll break it down. I won't use their names, obviously. Except for Rob, British Rob. After they opened the trunk in front of him, hey, we're going to open this trunk on you. The police said, yeah, we didn't think he was a suspect after. Thanks.
After we almost possibly showed you your dead girlfriend's body.
You're cool.
We don't think you're a suspect. You're good. You're good.
Rob, you're cool, man. Good job. Go back home.
Like your accent.
Yep.
Get some tea.
Top of the morning. Top of the morning.
That's Irish.
Yes, I'm awful at these.
How many bad British accents can we throw? Like, let's just get Cockney in there, too. Like, see how many we can go for.
Back to the suspects. Seriously now. So, good day, mate Rob. He's innocent. Drew and his, Jennifer's parents did say that they never suspected him. One, he was far enough away. And then two, not saying that he couldn't come or whatever, but they never suspected him. They said that he would sleep on their couch. You know, basically, they were all close. During this whole search, for months on end, he would stay with them. So they never... so he's out. The main suspect is out. Usually the main suspect. An ex-boyfriend of Jennifer's named Matt. On the 23rd, the night before her disappearance, he was spotted drinking at a bar, another Florida club, Blue Martini.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
It's got like the neon lights where the martini goes back and forth.
You got to have the olive in there. Guy had the olive. Yep. Across the street from Jennifer's subdivision. He was actually drinking over there. I don't know if they met up or they did it, or they called beforehand, but he actually was with Logan, her brother, that night over. So
less suspicious, but still like some stitious.
During a police interview, Matt confessed that he was upset about breaking up with Jennifer and more upset that she had gone on a trip with British Rob. You know what? I'm going to go with British Rob because I hate the name Boston Rob with that guy from Survivor, so I'm going with British Rob on this. I'm taking it back. Matt offered to take a polygraph. Good old police didn't think there was enough tying him to the disappearance to take him up on the offer. What's your stance on lie detector test?
I think you can use it, but I don't think it's like it's not a lie. I think you can judge people's reaction by how they act in it, like to kind of be like, okay, they seem too cool, like they're freaking out. I don't think they're going to tell if you lie, but I think the fact that he offered, maybe question him because he was close by.
Yeah.
So he could have had time, but polygraph, it's kind of like one of those things like yes and no. It depends on the situation and the person doing it.
I don't know if I would ever take a polygraph. I don't know. Even if I'm completely innocent, I don't know if I would because I feel like I would work myself up. I have anxiety anyways, and I feel like I would work myself up for it because I would be like, I know I'm being truthful, but I think I'm, screwing this up somehow.
Yeah, I don't know the parameters that they use to count if you're lying or something, and I'm just like, I think if you offer, maybe you have something to hide, but I definitely would never take a polygraph because, I would have a lawyer or something in there and be like, I'm going to follow my lawyer's instructions and shut the hell up.
Yep. Jennifer's brother Logan believes Matt is innocent and said that they did investigate him as well as Matt's group of friends too.
Okay, so they did at least do work, and they're like, okay, maybe they were all together really late or something, and they all left together, and that kind of deal.
His alibi was that Matt said that he was home the night she went, and he went to work the next day. His roommates and coworkers confirmed this, so unless everyone's lying, he's okay. So he's out.
Unless his friends are super awesome.
I have pretty good friends, and I think they would turn me in a heartbeat because they're like, no shit, what the hell are you doing with that? No, you killed someone. You're going to the police. We're dragging you there.
We're driving you to the station, zip tied. Let's go.
Get in the car. You're in the trunk. Open the trunk. So this is where the wonderful world of Reddit comes in, because you got to be careful because everybody throws theories. There was one person though, John Williams. He worked with Jennifer, and he went on record on several interview shows that a coworker was infatuated with Jennifer, and he was even late, 11 a.m. on the day that Kesse went. This was reported by a couple different sites. John Williams even noted it in one of the coworker. Stated that he was getting a speeding ticket that day, and that's why he was pretty long, 3 hours.
I've got a speeding ticket. It doesn't take more than 20 minutes.
No.
And that was even with Ohio State Highway Patrol. And he pulled someone over when he came back to give me the ticket.
And that was not 3 hours.
No, it was still like 20 minutes. Granted, I was like breaking my pants the entire time because I'd never been pulled over at that point. I just wanted to go home. And I was just like, goodness, it was still 20 minutes.
Yeah. They're going to get them in and out as quick as possible, this ticket.
To give someone else a speeding ticket. Oh, wait, that's just State Highway Patrol. Never mind.
Maybe in Florida it's different.
Maybe they're not as big as assholes as Ohio State Highway Patrol.
Allegedly.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with
that. Let's see. So the coworker had expressed a romantic relationship with Jennifer, even though he was already married. That's a good sign. Jennifer actually talked to her dad, Drew, and Drew was and his mom both were talking about this, and along with her best friend Lauren McCarthy that we talked about earlier. She didn't know how to handle it. Jennifer didn't know how to handle it. Her dad told her to have lunch with him in a work setting and just explain nicely that she didn't get involved in work romance.
That's fair.
Yep. Everything that came out seemed like that's what happened, and that was that. According to coworkers, this guy was ticked when he learned Jennifer was on vacation with her boyfriend and confronted her at work on the 23rd, the first day back, about it.
Oh, so he's an angry male.
Yes.
Yeah, he's hella suspicious.
Especially when he's married and he's getting jealous of her. I don't think so much.
Don't know. You're married. I'm like, she's happily in a relationship. Let her do her thing. You do your thing. If you're not happy in your relationship, deal with it. Don't creep on your coworker.
Don't bring others into it. A subordinate of the guy, of the coworker,
creepy
guy, ended up filing a harassment charge against him. That is actually John. He was the one that ended up filing a harassment charge. So
he's just not a great guy.
No. So there's been several interviews that this John Williams guy told this story. People have said that they think maybe John Williams just had it out for this coworker, creepy guy. But there's been other reports, especially with with Jennifer going to her parent, her friend talking about this guy. I would say it's a pretty, solid truth. Jennifer's company did step up. They did offer a $1 million reward to bring her home.
That's a good company.
And that was the one thing that surprised me is like that's not chump change. $1 million is huge.
No.
And to not get any feed on it, they said they got tips. Obviously, for $1 million, you're going to get every tip known to man, but none of them really.
That makes me think that if there's no tips, the only person who knows who did it is the person. It's like a one person kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Or they're legally not allowed in the country, and they work at the constructions at the condo complex, and they can't step forward to get the money because they're fearful they're going to be, if somebody knows something at that construction.
That's true. Then again, if you have $1 million, you could live really nice in another country.
My thought is that I think the biggest fear would be that they would step forward, and again, just spitballing here, my thought is that they would step forward, and they're fearful that if they told the cops who did it, the company would say, nope, you don't get the money. They could back out.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
From a liability.
That does seem like a thing that an American capitalist company would do.
Yes. Without missing a beat.
Nope. Just be like, oh, illegal. No, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. My bad.
Here's $5.
Oh, and look, there's ice. There's three options. The coworkers, creepy coworkers interest. There's construction workers at the condo complex that we've talked about. We talked about that Kesse said that Jennifer was concerned about the workers at the complex. She thought it was unsafe. There was very few residents in the apartment or in the condo. A painter in the condo complex came back and painted a few things inside Kesse's complex prior to her vacation. She did not feel comfortable with her. Later found out there's two painters that came back the week before. She went. One of them is Chino, and he was interviewed on 48 Hours.
I love the name Chino.
He will not release his last name because he got into an interview, promised he would do an interview on his front porch, but they could not use his last name. So this guy's a doll.
I mean, would you release your last name, though?
I wouldn't even get on an interview with these shows. I'm sorry, you think I'm a suspect? No, I'm out. No, you can talk to my attorney.
I mean, but the cojones on some people.
Oh, yeah.
The people who are doing, their Dateline interviews from jail.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love how they try to blur it on Dateline, oh, no, he's just in a nice shirt. And then, I think that's prison wardrobe right there. I think he did it.
Or no, it's just he's still wearing the pants, so they only show him from the waist up.
Yes.
And you're just like, is there another person in the background? Oh, yeah, you totally did it. You totally did it.
Yep, that's a nightstick. Okay. Yep, he did it. So Chino, he came onto the radar in 2009. Detective Joel Wright interviewed a housekeeper at Kesse's complex.
They had housekeepers?
Yeah. Basically, she said they showed her a photo of the person of interest and they had no idea who Chino was. First thing she says is that looks like so.
She must have great eyesight.
3 years later, detectives were like, who the hell's Chino? Well, they found out in 2009, Chino was in Florida prison for statutory rape of a teenage girl in 2008.
He's a gem.
Bring home to your mom. They interviewed him. He admits to working in Kesse's apartment the week before she went missing, painting. Unfortunately, he is 5'9" and taller than what they thought the figure was in the photo. He did pass a lie detector test, and the detectives did not rule him out.
See, that's where I'm like, lie detector tests, you can kind of field some questions, see their reactions more, but you shouldn't rule or not rule people out based off of that. Also, painting.
Interviewed him on 48 Hours. In the interview, he did seem calm. I don't think get a creepy vibe from him, which is odd since he was statutory rape. But it wasn't a creepy vibe like he was infatuated or that he was something to hide, because a woman was in the background. He's at the door talking to the 48 Hours reporter, and she's yelling, Gino, stop talking to them. And he turned around and said, I have nothing to hide. I can talk to them. So he turns around and starts talking to them. The one thing that gets Paul is they said, do you know her? And he said he did. Not well, because he just worked in the building.
He probably knew her by sight.
Yeah. And I believe he was also in charge of maintenance at the time, too. He wasn't a painter. He was in charge of
No wonder why the housekeeper recognized him. Yeah, it's Chino. He was the maintenance guy.
And he would have keys to the apartment. He described her, and this is the only interview, because I was like, seems like he might be telling the truth. He says to the reporter that she was beautiful. And
Did he say it creepy?
it's a tough call. I don't know. It sparked my antenna. Like, I don't know if that's the first thing I would say. Like, hey,
About a missing girl?
yeah, she's missing. Yeah, she's beautiful. I get it, but at the same time, that was the one thing, the only thing. And then it goes back to, well, if somebody does that, they're going to be possessive of the person. They're going to, describe a person in that way as opposed to others.
Did he say she is beautiful or was beautiful? That's the thing. If she said was beautiful.
I think he did say was. And that was the only, that's a lie detector. He does have a questionable past, shady past. But he did come across as not like stalkerish murder. But the beautiful thing is the only thing that he paused now.
He could just be one of those guys. Like, I mean, I get that on Instagram where people are like, oh, you're so beautiful. And I'm just like, sir, this account is private. Can you not? Yeah, it's just, to me, it's somehow less creepy. And more just him probably, like, that's just who he is.
And you don't know, like, in some cultures, the type of, that they were brought up like that. It could be, they respect it because it's beautiful and all that stuff. I get it. It was just, that was the only thing that was, obviously you can't, I don't think he's the top suspect, but the housekeeper was interested that she said right away. That was the one. There was one other, David Byron Russ. Per the Orlando Sentinel newspaper, a deck of playing cards in prison was passed around with missing persons on it. They do this in Florida. I guess they do it at other places too, but basically the deck of cards have missing people on it, so people in jail, if they hear something, from cellmates and that, they can kind of give tips if they do.
Yeah, they did that gave, like, soldiers over during Operation Iraqi Freedom, like, cards too. So there are people, like, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's an ace of spades or something like that, and it was kind of like code, but they could also, like, identify people then too.
Okay, so I don't know if this is just Florida, but I guess it wouldn't be. I mean, if that's the way, it's a smart plan, especially overseeing more of that. This guy, basically, David Byron Russ, basically is a confessed murderer. He met face to face with the dad, Drew Kesse. They thought it was a reputable enough tip to do that. So he told Drew Kesse during the December 2008 meeting that a playing card with information about Jennifer Kesse got him thinking about her. First off, background, David Byron Russ killed Madeline Lennon in her Longwood area home in 2007, and he pleaded guilty, saying he was in the middle of a cocaine binge at the time. He wrote the judge that he is a cold-blooded killer and would have killed again had he not been arrested.
So he's a great guy.
Top notch. He's still in jail.
Thank goodness. I mean, also, I like that he told the judge, like, I was in a cocaine-fueled binge. Probably better that I don't come out. You're just like, hey, I agree.
Life. Have a good day.
Like Ed Kemper stopped he's like, I don't need parole. It's not a good idea.
When the convict is saying that, just listen. Just listen right there. You're not doing a Morgan Freeman from Shawshank Redemption here. This guy's feeling good. No, this is a cold-blooded killer. Just keep him in. So a lawyer for Russ contacted the Kesse, gave him a handwritten letter basically stating that he needed to meet with. Kesse passed the information on to Orlando police investigators. Sergeant Barbara Jones, a police spokeswoman, said detectives have no plans to meet with him, though. And the information the inmate gave had been obtained by investigators already, and they looked into it several months. So that was the Orlando police dropped the ball on it again. I'm going to go with them I trust them that they said that it was looked at. So
it's just so dismissive because that, like, it doesn't sound like they went and talked to him at all.
So my fear is that if the police do follow up on these tips, not saying that they're not, but if they did and they do find her, it's going to come back on them that they do something right, and it's going to open them up for a lot.
It's going to look bad no matter what at this point.
And the Kesses are like, help.
We just want her.
There's been a lot of things happen. Basically, since 2010, it started snowball. Detective Wright was removed from the case. For the Kesse family, the case basically stalled. They requested the case to be considered a cold case because then it would open up more resources, and the Orlando police said, nope. We're keeping it an active case, and they have still.
But it's been over a decade.
Yeah.
That's hella cold.
There's a couple different podcasts that were devoted just to this. Unconcluded, first, they did the Jennifer Kesse. They did interview a woman who claims she saw someone who looks like Jennifer Kesse in a tennis store months after she went missing. I don't like those things because I don't think is a person that up to. I don't see it as a sex trafficking case either, because they usually don't, capture younger, not well off, but, established. It's usually on the fringes of society.
That's true, because, I mean, Ohio just had that big case where they got, like, what was it, almost 200 kids freed or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably going to be more developments in that one. Like, but from what I've read about it, like, they definitely were people who already didn't have the support system. And she definitely had the support system.
Yeah. My thought is that it can happen. I'm not saying it can't, but it just doesn't. It feels like it's not the top choice. They did say, the Tennessee woman did say that she reported the sightings to Central Florida Crime Line phone number and never heard back from detective. Again, they can't hit every tip, but I get it. Let's see. Per ABC7 local news, they did get a tip in 2019. In fact, a dive team spent several days at Lake Fisher in Orange searching. Basically, a woman came forward about something she witnessed 13 years ago which is located just a little bit more than a mile away from where Jennifer lived. Jennifer's father stated, search was 7 months in the making. Quote, the woman had witnessed across the lake one morning when there were no houses. A pickup truck had backed up to the lake. She saw a man get out and take out 6 foot of something rolled up what looked like carpet and threw it in.
That's hella suspicious.
It gets creepy. It gets creepier and more suspicious. This goes along with official reports, and in 48 hours, the Kesses did state this. The condo complex across from her that had the apartment that had 10 people living there, construction workers, installed carpet that same day that she went.
Oh.
So that is interesting to go with. They said nothing was found at the lake.
Is it a closed lake or is it like a natural lake?
It is a natural lake, I believe. They started building houses around now, so it's more, not subdivision, but it's more residential now. But back then it was still open, still out in the middle of nowhere. So basically, the Kesse feel like that might be the strongest thing. They've actually even hired a private investigator for the last years that have been helping them. And he feels, and I'll get to him in a second, he feels like that's probably where in that. So. My
thought is, because it's Florida and there's so many things that will eat humans, like flesh, that you're not going to get a body anymore. It's gone.
You hope for some remnants, harp or something, but
it's so moist. There's been so many storms. It's not like up here, like, I don't know, like if there's like up here, or even like the Great Miami River, it's gonna wash up. There's enough buildup. Yeah, we have storms, but it's not like Florida where it's so, like, it's humid. We have the cold. Like, Florida is made to decompose things.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, not to be morbid, but there's alligators. I mean, how many alligators? Basically, the Kesse family felt like they were not getting anywhere with the police. They sued them. Basically, they just wanted the case filed. Police said, nope, have them. Finally, in early 2000, they won a lawsuit to get the investigation records from the Orlando Department. They were redacted parts, but they still got them.
And there's people's jobs that can read the redaction.
Basically, as soon as the Orlando police gave those files over because they were fighting for it. This was according to their latest interview, Kesse's on 48 Hours. They said they are no longer leading. It's basically they left it to the Kesses and the private investigator, Michael Toretta, and said, you're in charge. Have a good day.
I get that they have, like, it's a lot of, they have a big, like, area, but still, you can't keep fucking up like this.
No. So Toretta, I'll wrap this up here. Toretta has talked to several women that lived in the complex around the time of Jennifer. They all felt uncomfortable with the construction workers that lived in the vacant. One tenant called the police on a peeping Tom in the complex. When she went outside, he was basically pleasuring himself on the patio because she was the first floor. Let's see. Another woman stated construction workers would make inappropriate remarks to the women many times as they walked by. So this doesn't show that it is somebody there, but it definitely shows that it was probably not the best environment for a single woman. So
that's like that makes me really anxious.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm very much that person. I have certain people I text every day because if I'm not at work, I don't see other people and I'm just like, no one would know until I wouldn't show up to work. And like, that's my fear. And like, especially in that situation, she was right to be afraid. Like, you try to live the best you can, but you don't know who has keys at that point if they're doing construction.
So the final word from Toretta, the private investigator, who he said that there's going to be a lot more coming out of it, but it's just a slow. He said his theory, is that he feels Jennifer was locking up her condo when a construction worker or workers that were living across the hall grabbed her and dragged her into what they had to do with. He says this correlates to the theory of the carpet from the condo and dumped in the lake. Why there's worker carpet. And Toretta states the workers put in the carpet in the new condo or in the condo later. The issue is that you're not going to find any information on who was. He said we never got the logs of the workers that were working. He said a lot of them were undocumented workers. You're not going to. And he said that's what he feels is waiting for her.
I agree. It seems most likely, and especially they like would know that condo's empty, and who knows how many times, like even if they're not illegal, how many times they've done it because they move a couple months later. They could go to a different area of Florida. They could go to a different state, and nobody would know. So I wonder how many, if we could look and see how many condos like have missing person cases or murder cases. Because the fact that they knew how to get rid of that body, they knew where the cameras were. That makes the most sense. Because her creepy coworker wouldn't.
Correct.
I think he just was like, you don't get a 2-hour speeding ticket. That's just weird. But you can't arrest someone for being weird.
Correct. There'll be a lot of people in prison for being weird. I think it goes back. The most simple answer is probably the correct. I mean, who had the opportunity is probably one of the workers. No. I don't feel like it was probably Chino. But I don't think you did it. I think you have probably. I think it was 1 to 2. I would say probably 2 to maybe 3 workers that and I think they had one person take the car and say, get this the hell out of that, because if you take that car away from that parking lot, they're not going to be looking in the other apartment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and even if it like what they said, it could be illegal, so then you have that code of silence. But then I'm sure not all of the construction workers were illegal.
Sure.
But think about it: if they're the citizen doing it, the legal guys aren't going to say anything because like.
Correct.
You're going to get deported. You're going to lose your money. We don't know what they're using that money for. They could be sending it back home.
Yeah.
Like it's a code of silence that it's really hard to break.
And the person of interest, the one thing I forgot to tell you is that the police did say, like, when the person of interest was walking away from the parking where the car was parked, it was in the direction of Kesse's condo. They were walking. Again, you only got 2 ways to go, so you're going to right. So it's a mile away. Who knows if they were actually going back to the complex, but it does go with that trail. And it follows up with the bloodhound going back there too.
Yeah, because he probably would smell like her if he was sitting in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just seems like it isn't the first rodeo of whoever did it.
No.
Because they cleaned off the car, they knew where to get rid of the body, they knew how to grab her. Did they ever find her phone and keys and purse?
I don't believe they ever did. No.
So this probably with her body.
Yeah, I would say him. The private investigator, because he obviously knows a lot more than on this. I feel like he probably has the right, and I don't. Which is a shame too, because you would think in something like this that you would have you have the surveillance, you have a lot. You don't have many suspects in terms of people living in the building, so it's not like neighbors. But the problem is that you don't have. Logan, her brother, said that he did confront one of the workers when he got the day that she went, and he basically got into an argument with them. And they pulled away. They left in a white. They didn't want to talk to him. They were standoffish. I can see his point. Like, oh, maybe that's suspicious. They knew something more. My other thought is, if this guy's coming up to me and yelling at me that my sister's missing, I'm going to be like, whoa, what the hell are you doing yelling at me? Like, I think you could take that either way. I don't think there's a simple way of saying, oh, that's suspicious right off. Someone comes up yelling or getting upset, which understandable. You're not going to, I think that can push you too. And these workers were like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
I mean, I would. Yeah, it is very much a sided coin in that case because, it could be suspicious. The murderer could be with them.
Mm-hmm.
It also, like nobody deserves to be yelled at for no reason when they don't know what's going on.
Sure.
Because I've been in that position, too, where someone just comes up and is mad, and you're just like, I just got here. I don't know what's happening. Why are you mad at me,
I don't know you. Leave me alone.
Yeah, and especially say English isn't their first language. That's also hard, too, because you're getting yelled at in a different language, and you're just like, this is scary. Yeah. I don't like this, but...
So that, after all these said, I don't think you're ever going to... I think you're right. You're never going to... It's for the...
I think when in doubt, maybe you'll find some bones.
Maybe.
But that's the best hope. Because if they threw it in water...
You're going to have to train them. You're going to have to get any. And that's
or even dredge it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, again, it's Florida. Who knows what you're going to find in it?
You got Florida, which is, like you said, the best place to probably hide a body. Or Montana. Middle of nowhere. I mean, those are the two places. But at least with Montana, you're probably going to find bones eventually. In Florida, I think you're never...
It's in a sinkhole now.
That
is not wrong, actually. No, it is.
It is.
Geographic sinkhole.
That's more than one way. So there you go. That story of Jennifer Kesse. So
the sad thing is next week's not going to be cheerful. Like the next episode's not cheerful either. So it's just 2 downers.
I aim to please on that end.
But we'll be back next week, and I have a historical... Let's put it this way. I have a series of rebellions. None of them go well.
They never do.
But we'll be back. Bye.
Hey everybody, this is Jason.
And Jeff.
And Blake.
And we're the History of Bad Ideas podcast. And if you like hearing geeks talk about Fisto from He-Man?
Or zombies, or dragons, or zombie dragon?
I was given copy to read, but it's a piece of crap. So if you just like any geek or any fun stuff, listen.
We drop every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, Tangent Bound Network, or WeBeGeeksPC.com.
Oh God, I'm out. And remember to wear a coat.
Did you know that 65 million people worldwide have epilepsy, and for 3.4 million don't know why?
That's right. And did you know that 1 out of every 26 people have epilepsy? And Trisha's daughter is one of them.
Hi, this is Shauna and Trisha from Two Girls on a Bench, the podcast.
We want to tell you about our upcoming fundraiser, The Bench Gives Back, November 7th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific Time.
We will be live streaming on Get Vocal with some of your favorite podcasts to raise funds to find a cure for epilepsy.
So join us, tell a friend, bring your wallet, and enjoy a day of fun podcasters and special guests. We'll see you then.
Bye!
Domesticity. We're available on all podcatchers. Remember to rate, review, subscribe to help spread the word, or just force other people to listen to it. Our Facebook and Twitter are at Domestic Podcast, and our Instagram is at the Cult of Domesticity. We also have podcast merch at Threadless. As well, if you want to support us financially or show some appreciation, we have a PayPal tip jar and a Patreon, which has some pretty great perks. Any topic suggestions, feel free to email us at domesticpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to stay domestic and cult free.